Let's talk about how much it costs to live abroad. I've been watching other vloggers, and the consistent question that comes up from viewers, how are you affording this? How do you live like this? How much does this cost? It's a fair question when you see someone living a certain lifestyle to be like, how much does that cost? I want to know, what's the price? Cuánto cuesta? I get that. So I decided before I post any vlogs, I am going to just get it out of the way because I know that it's going to be a question that people are going to have. Let's talk about how much it costs to live abroad. Hi, my name is Jay. I am a millennial expat currently living abroad in Panama City, Panama. I always knew that I was going to live in a Central American country if I ever moved abroad. One of the major reasons was because cost of living was considerably lower than living in the States. Not only that it was a lower cost of living, it was a higher quality of life. On top of that, having a higher quality of life and it costing less, my brain is like, see. So I would like to show what that can look like, even if you're not a millionaire or you haven't, you don't got to be rich. Now, I don't want to be one of those places to be like, you don't have to have any money. Let's be for real. Okay, this video isn't just going to be about the cost. It's also going to be about the context around that. So, of course, my situation isn't going to be what everyone's situation is, and my preferences aren't going to always be what your preferences are. So, use this as information that you can gain knowledge and then use that to apply to your specific situation. Okay, so first up is rent. My rent is $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment, condo. I don't know the difference between those words. It's 2-bedroom, 2-bath though. That price is for an unfurnished apartment. So my apartment was unfurnished, and that's a really big distinction that I need to make because it makes a huge difference in what your experience is like when it comes to getting an apartment. I chose the road less traveled in that it's unfurnished because most apartments, understandably, the rent includes a completely furnished apartment. The only drawbacks with that is it's not your particular style and you can't choose the specific furniture items that you want. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, I am someone who has always prioritized the experience of living somewhere. So what I do value is it feeling really good to exist in that space. So what that looks like for me is I love natural light. If you can tell, I'm filming during the day. I have not a single light on in this apartment, and it's absolutely spilling with light. This makes me feel so happy. And what's funny is I almost didn't get that vibe when I very first walked into this apartment. I think the apartment looks great now, but when I first moved in, I definitely had to have some vision. When I came in, there was not a single furniture item or anything in here. The appliances that were in the kitchen were the refrigerator and the stove. They were both older, and then the washer and dryer were brand new. Those were brand new from the start. The windows were already tinted, and then they had put this really dark film over the windows as well. And I think I know why after being here, because from 3 p.m. to when the sun sets around 6:30, I get full direct sun. Also, a patio, like that just was a non-negotiable for me personally because it just improves my mood to be able to step outside. So having a patio is also one of those non-negotiables for me. If I don't walk outside every day, I feel it in my body. Being able to step outside for a break is nice without having to. So this is one of the drawbacks of living in a high rise. And I never thought about this before living in a high rise, but like it takes time to get outside. So you can't just like walk out of your front door and you're outside. No, you have to go press the elevator, wait for the elevator. That's the other thing. How many elevators does your building have compared to apartments? We have 4, but sometimes they're still a wait, especially during busier periods where like kids are coming home from school or people are going to work or whatever it is. So yeah, you got to wait for the elevator and then go down the ride for the elevator and then walk through the lobby and finally you're outside. And yeah, for me personally, I need a patio so I could just walk outside. Another requirement for me was that I had to have a second bedroom or a den. I know that there are people who can do like they have their desk just in a corner of their bedroom because maybe they have a more spacious space. This wasn't even about spaciousness for me. It was about I want and need a separate space where I do work versus my bedroom. Love my bedroom. One of my favorite features of my bedroom is the floor to ceiling windows. Again, such amazing natural light. In the mornings, I don't get direct sunlight. At 3 to 6 p.m. for 3 hours a day, I do get direct sunlight on this side. The payoff for those few hours of direct light and heat as I see the most insane, beautiful sunsets floor to ceiling. It's really, really nice to be able to see that, to see the sun setting with this really amazing view. And I wasn't even looking for those features. I was looking for these other features, and like this is the apartment that popped up. So again, it's like you have to have the vision. What happened with the appliances though is that I actually signed the lease and moved in because I was on a time crunch. You can definitely speak up and be like, this is no. There wasn't a hood over the stove. I said, obviously we need to add a hood to the stove. And they were like, yeah, we're getting on that. But then after I started to see, oh no, burners don't work. And then also this fridge is struggling to get cool. I was like, absolutely not. We need to replace it. They did try to come fix the stove and it didn't work. Or there was like a janky workaround to making it work. And I was like, you need to put brand new appliances in there. All of my appliances are brand new. The hood on the stove is new, the stove is new, and the washer and dryer are new. They were always new. So all of those are new. There were 2 months of this lease where I did not pay $1,000 a month. Instead, what I paid was $800 a month. And that's because there was this ongoing issue of a leak. Apparently there was a leak in the pool. I knew almost immediately when they said that it was the pool that it really wasn't the pool because it only happened when it rained. So basically what followed was months and months and months and months and months of going back and forth, sending the developers, sending repair people, talking to the property manager. It was a whole lot of back and forth. And I was like, all right, now at one point I was actually going to move. I was like, let me find a new place to live. And I started looking at apartments. But after I looked at apartments, I was like, I got a really good deal. I got a really good deal. So let me see if I can make this work. What ended up happening is I went back to the property manager and I said, look, it's been since June and it's October at this point. There's no way I can continue to keep paying you full rent when I can't even use this bedroom the way that I want to use it, which was I needed to use it for my office because y'all, the leak was right above where I had my desk positioned. So it was literally leaking on my work computer when I discovered it. I discovered it in enough time, thank God, where it hadn't entered the computer, but that's where the leak was. So I said, I need you to reduce the rent by $200. I felt like that was fair based on the fact that this room was basically not in use. And I'll just pay the lower rent for as long as you don't fix this leak. Sounds fair to me. And they said, yeah, that does sound fair because y'all, it had been months. So after 2 months of paying that $800, the leak got fixed for real this time. Like actually, sometimes people need a little motivation. Part of making that demand, I will have to say, y'all, is because I'm an excellent tenant. I pay my rent on time. I pay utilities on time. You barely hear from me. So be an excellent tenant that they actually care about replacing. And yeah, just be a decent person to work with in general. Yeah, and I will say that about apartments here in general. Build relationships with people and maintain relationships with people. You'll probably find some really good apartments. That's how I found the last apartment that I was living in. It was also a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, also $1,000, but in the San Francisco neighborhood, and it was directly across the street from a metro station and fully furnished. And it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with a deep hallway that had enough space for my desk, which is my standing desk. And I found that apartment after looking for apartments earlier with this woman. The apartment that she showed me, I wasn't really feeling it because of an issue with the view. And I reached back out to her later and I was like, we met months and months ago, but do you happen to know of any 2-bedroom, 2-baths? And she was like, actually, I do. And this apartment wasn't advertised on any website Sometimes people are going to want to rent their apartment, but they don't necessarily want to post it on the main pages for whatever reason. So they'll try to do it through a friend, through a relationship that they have. And your only access to that is if you are in relationship with that person as well. So sometimes just reaching out to people you know is a really good way to tap into places that might not be advertised out in the open at a specific place. For this specific apartment, it was listed for $10.50. So that's the other thing. Prices are negotiable, and they'll usually tell you in the listing if it's negotiable. From my experience, negotiable means you can target down $50. That's what negotiable means to Panamanians, I feel. I could be wrong. That's really it. In my experience, please tell me below if your experience has been different here in Panama. But like I said, when it came to issues that came up in fairness, they were willing to negotiate their price down. When it came to my appliances not working as expected and it being like incongruent with the rest of the apartment. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh yeah, so I do want to say that renting here versus renting in the States, it's a lot easier in terms of, girl, if you have your pay stub and your deposit, they're pretty much going to rent you the apartment. Like, it's not like, oh, like sometimes they need references. I think that's highly dependent on the owner as well. But for the most part, like, there's no credit check. Nobody's checking your credit for you to rent an apartment. They literally just want to know, do you have the money? Are you making income? And can you pay a deposit and first month's rent? So my rent also includes a rooftop pool area, nearly panoramic views of the city. And I feel like the unique position where I am in the city, it's at a unique view as well. I get a view of Ancon Hill over here, which is very important to the Panamanian people. The flag there now is the Panamanian flag, obviously, but apparently in the past it was the American flag because it was American territory. That all changed obviously when Panama got that territory back. And so waking up every morning and literally that's the hill that I get to look at is pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So yeah, it includes water, the gas, trash, obviously. It includes a parking space that I don't use. Renting your parking space to someone else is also an option, so you can decrease your rent even lower. I do not right now. The range that seems to be thrown out there is between $30 and $70, but I think it's highly dependent on the building. It includes a gym, and that gym has a Pilates reformer. I haven't seen that in very many places. And that there's also a co-working space, and that co-working space has an outside area that you can go and sit and work outside without being on the rooftop. And then there also, that co-working space is just a social space in general that you can rent for events and stuff like that. I am so pleased with where I am, and I feel like the price was absolutely fair, especially considering everything that is included in my rent. So get a full understanding of what amenities, what little extras, what's included in your rent, because it makes a big difference. So paying your rent is going to be a process. So basically, the way to do that is to wire money to yourself here. After I had to switch over to paying the rent in cash, I was like, nah, I need a Panamanian bank account. It just makes the process so much easier. That's what motivated me to get a bank account. That, and then also access to Yappy, which is the country's cash transfer system here. So I would wire myself my rent money through Western Union. And from my recollection, that cost like somewhere between $30 and $40 every time. When I tell you my pay rent day used to be wire the money to myself online, take a Uber from where I am, go to Western Union, pick up the cash, figure out a way to put the cash and arrange it in a way that don't make me a good lick for somebody, drive to the owner's bank of choice, fill out a deposit slip, walk to the cashier, give the cashier the cash for the rent to deposit it directly into the owner's account, take an Uber back home. That's how I had to pay my rent previously. Let me say a few things. First of all, I want to say with the whole Western Union situation, this was before I really fully understood how much ATMs would allow you to withdraw here. Previously, I had went to an ATM somewhere before. It only let me withdraw like $200, and I just thought that's the limit for all ATMs. But eventually I did realize that you can go to other ATMs. So BAC is the bank here in Panama. They allow you to withdraw up to $1,000 a day. I've only been able to do it in 2 transactions, so each transaction is $500. But again, it lets you do that, and it's way easier than, of course, like sending it to you in Western Union, go picking it up, and all of this other stuff. So that's what I used to do after I figured that out. I would go to the banking center in Multi Plaza Mall. I would go to BAC. I would withdraw the money, and then I would walk across the hall to whichever bank I had to go to deposit the rent money into my owner's bank account. So the other thing I wanted to say is that I was doing the Western Union thing while I was working. So mind you, I had to pay my rent, like, because you still have to go to a bank and stand in line and physically deposit your cash into the owner's account. So this has to be done during business hours. And I was working at that time, so I always worked during business hours. So I had my lunch break to go pay my rent. And I just could not afford at that time, like if I went to an ATM and it didn't allow me to get the cash withdrawal that I had to come back or I had to go somewhere. Like I just didn't have the time for that. I knew that Western Union was guaranteed I was going to be able to get that amount of cash to put into the bank account in the time that I needed to do it in. So that's another reason why I went the Western Union route, because I had a finite amount of time to be able to actually go and pay my rent because I was working during banking business hours. So yeah. I think that's everything I wanted to say. Back to the video.
So got the Panamanian bank account. It's not hard. You don't have to be a resident. Practice your signature, girl. Practice your signature. So then I start to using MoneyGram to transfer the money instantly using my debit card from my bank account. So that fee was $1.99 for the longest time, months and months and months and months. And then recently the price went up. It's now $7.99. It's no longer the flat rate of $1.99 up to $1,000. It's now tiered based on the amount that you're sending. That's been a few months now too, where it's a higher fee on MoneyGram. But now Banco General is like, oh, by the way, we've also raised our fee. Well, it's not even that they're raising a fee, they're just implementing a fee. Because before it was free to receive money in your bank account from someone. But now Banco General is charging a fee for receiving money via your debit card. And yeah, again, it's capitalism. It is what it is. But even the, $8 that I pay now, and then I think, what is it, a few dollars I'm going to be paying from Banco General. That's what, maybe $10, $11. That's still less than the fee that I paid before and the Uber to and from, and just the time of going through traffic. And I'll pay the $8 MoneyGram, and I'll pay the $3 Banco General. So yeah, that's that with rent. So next expense is electricity. Generally, electricity will not be included in your rent in Panama. Electricity was one of those expenses that I had the most anxiety about, with no question. And that's because I heard about the horror stories of these $600, $1,500, $400 bills. And there were some people who were like, we don't know why your bill is $800. That's ridiculous. But then other people were like, no, I had the same thing happen to me. So I was very scared about my electricity bill. On top of that, I've heard what a nightmare it is to interact with the electricity provider here. So when the owner said to me during signing of the contract that I actually want to keep the electricity in my name, I was like, no problem. Not a problem. I didn't want to be the person responsible for going to remedy things or fix it if something went haywire and I got a crazy $500 bill. Because I have a bank account, there is a option in the Banco General app where you can pay certain providers. Naturgy is on there. So I pay directly from my account. I looked at my past 3 months of transfers to Naturgy for electric, and then I'm just going to average them out. And I'll do this for any of my costs that are variable. For electric, for May, it was $101.27. For June, it was $111.93. And then for July, it was $89.56. So the average for the past 3 months is $100.92. So as you can see, July, it dipped down to $89. I was away on vacation for a week. So Another thing I like to do is I try not to use my AC or my inverter as the first line of defense against heat. I open up my patio windows, I open up my windows, let the cross breeze blow in. It feels so good. And just to let fresh air in. So I have my patio doors and windows open pretty often. I know some people says it lets in bugs, but if you're pretty high up from the ground, you probably won't have an issue with bugs. Your windows and doors can be open all day and it's fine. During when it's sun, if it's sun time, putting down blinds, closing curtains, whatever to help your apartment cool down. I use the inverter when I need to use the inverter. I'm not militant about it, but just be mindful. That's all. So yeah, that's my average electric bill. So the next expense is internet. For internet, I use a company called Wipeet, aka Liberty Technologies, and I pay $45 for the actual internet service and $5 a month to rent the router. So altogether, including taxes and fees, it's $50.35 every single month. So that bill always stays the same. My cell phone service is the next expense. My cell phone service provider here in Panama is Mas Móvil. I just got the prepaid version of it. And then after several months, I kept getting text messages from them saying, hey, you can upgrade to postpaid. And I just was like, yeah, that's easier for me than, because before I used to have to find someone who would sell the little recharge tickets for Mas Móvil, go to that little tienda or little market, buy the thing, scratch it off, like scratch the activation code off the card, load the card. And then eventually I found out there were these little machines where you could just go pay directly into your cell phone on these little machines in stores. Postpaid just made a lot more sense because I was moving into a space where I am going to be here long term and I don't want to keep making it inconvenient for myself. With taxes and fees, my bill is $24.66 every month. So I get a bill every month and I pay it every month on credit card and it's so much easier. So I didn't really care what my messages were and what my minutes were because I knew I would not be using them virtually at all. And I don't. It didn't matter to me because I use WhatsApp. And the same for everyone here. Everyone here, every business, every service provider, every expat, every local, everyone use WhatsApp here. In my opinion, don't use your cell phone service for calling abroad. Just use WhatsApp. Ask the people back home in the States to just get WhatsApp. Okay, next is transportation. I'll start with Metro because that's the easiest. I purchased my Metro card probably like a year ago and I just loaded $20 onto it. For 35 cents, you can get to lots of places really quickly, really easily. So I highly recommend the Metro. And I highly recommend if you're considering living abroad to research what the transportation options are in that place that you're wanting to relocate to. And I know that's a very simple, common sense thing to say or suggest, but sometimes as Americans, we're so conditioned to just immediately jump to you'll need a car. I get that completely because the places where I lived in the US, you needed a car, but that's not the case everywhere. In addition to not needing a car, it's also, for me, it would be unpleasant having a car because I've heard finding a good used car isn't easy. Getting repairs isn't easy. And the way people drive completely just does not appeal to me in any way to participate in that. So I knew immediately when I came here that I wasn't going to drive, that I was going to Uber, and that I would try to take the Metro. The very first neighborhood that I was in was not accessible to the Metro, so I didn't take it until I started moving out further central to the city, closer toward Old Town and San Francisco and Bella Vista and those areas. You can save a lot of money, and transportation is such a major quality of life issue, a big part of the kind of life that you're able to have, what you have access to and what it's going to be like getting there. All of that matters a lot. So 35 cents per ride, that $20 that I loaded last year, it's probably like $3 left on it at this point. So I do need to probably refill it soon. I would estimate that I, on average, take the Metro about 10 times a month. And that's just because not every area is central to the Metro. So a lot of the places that I go to, it's not practical to take the Metro for whatever reason. Maybe a Metro stop is far away from where I happen to be, or I need to walk to the Metro. So if walking to the metro for 8 minutes and then getting there and then walking to where I'm going isn't going to get me there in enough time, which is usually the case for me when I'm going out somewhere. I don't take the metro then. If I have packages and it's a big package that I need to carry, I don't take the metro. If I'm coming back from a grocery shop and it's a lot of groceries that I'm carrying, I don't take the metro. So there's a lot of times where I do not take the metro, but when there's no reason not to take the metro, I take the metro. I would say that usually happens about 10 times per month. So with it being 35 cents per ride, I think I pay about $3.50 every month for metro when it comes to transportation. So Uber rides is the other part of my transportation costs, and it's definitely the major part. It's definitely the part that I spend the most money on. And I'm going to be real with y'all. I never really fully totaled and calculated what this costs just because I know that I need it and I know that I can afford it. So I just really haven't been tracking it. But it was really good for me to do this video and track it to be like, oh, that's how much I pay on Ubers. So one of my credit cards is a Discover card, and I discovered when I got here that Discovered is not accepted here. So what I've done is I put my Discover card on apps like Uber, where it's not necessarily local and specific to Panama. So they're going to accept that card because I didn't want that a card to just go dead. That card is where all my Uber rides, all my Uber Eats, everything Uber goes, because I can't use that card here in my everyday life. Luckily for me, Discover also has where you can download your statements, not just as a PDF, but also as a CSV file. So you can go through all of your transactions and put them in a spreadsheet. Because math and accounting is not my ministry whatsoever, I use the CSV file that I got from Discover and then the sum feature to have Google Sheets tell me how much I spent for each month. So again, this is going back for the past 3 statements so you get an accurate idea, and we'll average it just like we did for the electric bill. So my total for Ubers in May, it was $179.52. In June, it was $144.74. And in July, first of all, I want to say in July, I was outside. There was a period of time where I was like, my calendar is never this full. Like, why am I going to so many things? There was so many really good, fun events going on during that time period. At first, I thought it was because I traveled as well because I went back to the States, but I very consciously limit my Uber use when I'm in the States. So I was like, no, it can't be that. The only abnormally high ride on my July statement was my ride to the airport here in Panama City. That ride was like $16.98. That's not abnormally high to get to the airport. I want to be clear. It's abnormally high for normal Uber rides. So that was the only outlier, really. And that's because airport rides are going to be more. I've seen airport rides anywhere from $11 all the way to mid-30s, just to give you an idea. But yeah, it wasn't even the airport rides, girl. I was outside a lot. So anyway, all of that, July was $235.94. So the average for the past 3 months, Uber is $186.73. So when we add that with my Metro, which is $3.50, my total average cost for transportation each month is $190.23. One thing I will say about Uber is Uber rides are normally $2 to let's say $6, $7, depending on time of day, what the traffic is like, where you're going, all of those things. But I do notice that certain parts of the year, like towards the end of the year, like November, December, the prices jump up considerably, like $5 more per ride than it would normally be. And I don't know why that is, but it does jump up higher. And certain times of day, it's going to be difficult for them to come pick you up. In certain parts of the city, you might have people canceling on you, can't get a ride because they're like, girl, I'm not coming to that part of the city at this time of day. So that just goes back again to what I talked about earlier when it comes to like designing your life, thinking strategically about how you want to be able to move around the city. If that is something that is important to you, consider moving somewhere that's near a metro stop. All right, that's a lot, girl. If you're still here, be like, I don't know, what should we do? Thumbs up, some kind of emoji to be like, we're still here, girl. We stayed for the middle. If you are still here, what's been surprising to you? I'd love to hear what that is. Okay. Now that we've got kind of the basic, you need these things, your rent, your utilities, your transportation, right? Now we're going into the living part of it, the actual living part of it. Next for me is household help. After getting my apartment pretty early on, like sometime last year, a cleaner came every other week, so twice a month, and it was $40 a day for them to come. I felt like with the amount that I was spending on Uber Eats, I could just as easily just have someone prepare food for me that's nutritious and healthy and tastes good, and it isn't processed like some of the stuff that I was ordering from Uber Eats, and I could pick what it was, and I could just basically eat more intentionally and spend more intentionally too. So I really was like, I want to find someone who can also cook. I was also going to be having surgery. I knew I wasn't going to be able to carry certain things, pick up certain things. I was going to be not much that I could do, not many household, if anything. There was basically I wasn't even supposed to be standing for too long. So I was like, I want someone who can help with the household chores and also cook. That would be a better value for my lifestyle and a better fit for what I want. So I started looking, and y'all, it was so much harder than I thought it would be. I don't know why I thought it would be easy to just get referrals from people and then whatever, but you don't consider that some people are flaky. I've had one lady, we scheduled and said she was going to start one day, and she literally just did not show up. I've had people where I just was like, I don't trust you because I don't know you. I don't know you from anywhere. So having someone come that recommended was helpful for me. It's been a little over a month now. What I get help with is laundry, wash, dry, fold, put away, all those things. Oh, and cleaning, of course. So cleaning and meal prep. She'll batch cook certain things for me and put them all in containers and put it in the fridge. It's the first meal prep I ever had was so beautiful, to be eating like real healthy, good food and not just be like, oh, I'm hungry. Let me see what's on Uber Eats. Like, it felt so good, and it was prepared just for me. It was really nice. It is still $40 a day, twice a week. So twice a week, $40 a day, $80 a week. And sometimes if she can't come for some specific reason, or I happen to be away, then, she's paid for the day that she does actually come. So on average, if she comes twice a week, every single week, it's $320 a month. And that is really good for me never having to fold laundry, never having to wash dishes, never having to clean, never having to cook. I do cook sometimes, like if there's something I want, I'll cook something if I'm in the mood for like a dish or whatever. But like, I don't have to cook. I don't have to wash dishes. I don't have to clean. I don't have to do my laundry. So it's really nice. And I find that 2 days a week works perfectly for the amount of work. My apartment looks great. It feels great. And I feel good not having to be in a position where I'm buying food that isn't the best choice for me because I'm just hungry and I just don't have groceries and I just haven't prepared and I just don't feel like cooking or whatever else. You know what I'm saying? You will see in the next category why this was such a good move to have a household helper who is able to provide me with meals. The other thing I want to say is meal delivery service. That's also an option that's here. It was about $105 a week for, I think, like 8 meals. And there are vegetarian options and, meat eater options as well. It was a good service, but I just found it felt a lot like Uber in that I had to go pick up. I know this is going to sound first world problems, but I had to go downstairs to pick up my delivery every 2 days. And the meals were predetermined meals. And then also it just ended up, so $105 per week is $420 a month versus household helper is $320 per month. And she also does laundry and also cleans and also washes the dishes. And also it's exactly what I want. So the next category is for eating in. So this eating in is going to include delivery service or groceries. So the huge part of this is Uber Eats for me. This has been literally since day one. The first night that I arrived in Panama, I arrived hungry and I didn't know where to go or what to do. I turned on my Uber Eats app and saw that there were restaurants available, and I ordered from McDonald's of all places. So the very first night that I was here, I used Uber Eats. The first month or two that I was here, I mean, I literally ordered Uber Eats all the time. So my first month, I stayed in an Airbnb. I had my own room and a private bathroom. The host commented on it and was like, "You order Uber Eats a lot." And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And she was like, "You know, you probably spend on Uber Eats like what most people like make in a month here." And I was like, I don't know what to do with that information, because the other people who are here, they know their neighborhoods well. They know where to go to grocery stores. They know how to communicate with people to find what they need. They have a system. They have a ritual down. I don't have any of those things, girl. I'm just out here trying to survive. Also, both with ordering in and eating out, I budget for this, okay? I don't live in a $2,000 or $3,000 apartment because I like to eat and I like good food, and that's my preference. That's what I value and that's what I like. So, this for Uber Eats, May was $444.18. June was $361.81. And July was $406.82. So on average, ordering in is $404.27. And next is groceries. I hadn't been going to grocery stores as often. I do think the numbers are gonna shift a little bit now that I have someone helping me with household chores like cooking. So I do grocery shop more often. Yeah, so the costs are adjusting. So May was $51.36. June was $247.06, and July was $122.66. So the average for groceries that I spend is $140.36. So with the groceries added with Uber Eats, the total is $544.63 on average for groceries and delivery. All right, y'all. This is eating out and going out. I debated on including this in the cost of living video because this is more of a choice when it comes to whether or not you go out. Like, it's not something that's a need to have, I guess. But for me personally, connecting with people, building community with people, that's one of the major reasons I wanted to be here. I wanted to connect with other expats. I wanted to meet local Panamanians. I wanted to learn about the culture. I wanted to do different things. And this is not to say that there are no free options to do that, because actually there are plenty of free options to do that. Plenty of free and plenty of low cost ways of getting out and going to see the city, learning Panamanian culture, meeting other people, all of those things. However, there are costs associated with some of the things, and a lot of the things, honestly, that you're going to do. So because I do feel like it's still a necessity to plan for, I decided to include this in the cost of living video because I feel like it is a big part of what your quality of life is going to be like when you're living somewhere. So I am including eating out and going out. So this is both going to restaurants and activities. So for May, it was $370.96. For June, it was $380.58. For July, it was $294.60. So my average monthly costs for going out and eating out is $348.71. So when we add up all of those costs, my rent, the electricity, internet, cell phone service, the different transportation options between Metro and Uber, household helper who basically helps with every single household task, eating in, so groceries and delivery, and going out. The total that I spend per month living here in Panama City, Panama, on average is $2,579.50. I wanted to share these numbers in such a detailed way because I hope it inspires you to see what you're actually spending and compare that to what that same lifestyle would look like in another city abroad. My experience here rivals other American cities. I've been like, ooh, I don't want to say that because I'm not from a major city in the US, but I feel like it rivals a Miami, it rivals a Chicago, it rivals a New York, it rivals a LA. I personally definitely feel like Panama City does. A lot of the positives and draws of those major cities, like networking, the cultural mix, the good food scene, surrounded by beautiful landscape, having access to certain things. That's what you get living here in Panama City, and you can get in other cities as well, but not for this price. Not for this price. I don't know anybody who lives in those cities whose monthly costs and monthly budget look similar to what I spend and live the same way. So I really do want to show you moving abroad is an option, girl. It is an option. And I was laid off last year in September. I have not worked for almost a year at this point, and this number is the reason why. This is why. It's a big reason why. It's a big reason why. I hope that these numbers gave you some practical insight into what kind of life you can build for yourself abroad. I'm going to go ahead and throw out Central America as an option there just because I'm a big fan. I do love it. I will say these are not my only costs, right? So while this is my standard of living, my cost of living, my burn rate, there are still extras. I've gone on vacations. I've had surgery that I paid for out of pocket here. I, do services like get my nails done or get my hair done or whatever else. That's not included in here. I really wanted to make a video that I feel would answer that question of, but for real, like how much is it going to cost me in a really satisfying way. So I hope this video did that. I'm realizing that I really like these kind of like sit down, like talk videos. It's my vibe. I've been vlogging, so there will be vlogs posted soon. I'm gonna continue to do the vlogs, but like I can tell that like this is what I really enjoy and like doing. So yeah, let me know if there's anything you want me to do a similar kind of video on, if there's a specific topic that you're interested in. I really want to know, like, if you're someone who's considering moving abroad, I want to know like what concerns are coming up for you and what barriers do you feel like you're running into? What information do you feel like you not have? What do you feel like you need to like get right and make right before you decide on whether or not it's something you're going to do or whether or not it's something that's possible for you. And I really wanted to do this because I want you to know, like, you don't have to wait until retirement, girl. You do not have to wait until retirement to do this. You just don't. I hope that these numbers help you believe and see and accept and embrace that this could be your reality pretty soon, fairly soon. There may be things you need to put in place. There may be plans you need to make. There may be, certain things you need to do to like make that happen. But it's absolutely a possibility for you in most cases. I can't wait to continue to get to know more about each other and just kind of share my journey with you and share my learnings and what I'm learning, the challenges I'm going through. What the reality is like living abroad, and then hopefully do that in a way that helps you kind of make the decision and feel more confident in your decision to make this happen for yourself. So yeah, if you want to make sure that you know and see when the new videos are posted and when vlogs are posted as well, subscribe. Yeah. Thank you for watching and keep evolving on purpose. I'll see you next time, girl. Bye.